house was only beginning to stir when Betsy slipped into the breakfast room with a tray of polished cutlery. Light filtered in through the tall windows, pale and watery, promising a mild day. She set the knives and forks with practised precision, pleased to be given a new task and pleased to be ahead of schedule for once. She had just finished aligning the spoons when soft footsteps approached. Jane Bennet entered, a small stack of letters cradled in her hands, her expression composed and yet faintly distracted. "Good morning, Betsy," she said warmly. "I wonder if you might take these up to my room for me. They must be kept together. I should hate for anything to be misplaced." Betsy straightened as though enlisted into military service. "Yes, miss. Of course, miss." Jane gave her a grateful smile and handed over the correspondence. A note from Aunt Gardner, a folded recipe, an invitation edged with gilt, and several other letters set a little apart from the rest. Betsy didn't pry, heaven forbid, but she noticed. It was impossible not to. Betsy dipped a curtsy, clutching the letters to her chest as if they were fragile and irreplaceable artifacts. In her mind, a solemn vow took shape. Nothing would happen to them. Nothing. She made her way upstairs with care bordering on reverence. No rushing, no turning too sharply, no brushing against walls. She entered Miss Bennet's room, which was airy, elegant, and faintly scented with lavender. She approached the writing desk and laid each letter down carefully, smoothing the edges so they aligned perfectly. There, she thought, safe, intact, and exactly where they ought to be. Satisfied, she turned to continue her duties. An hour later, Jane returned to her room to retrieve the correspondence only to stop short. A small, separate letter appeared to be missing. She frowned lightly, rifling through the stack, then the drawer, then the desk, then, delicately, the floor. "That is so odd," she murmured, checking again, as if the letter might materialize out of embarrassment for having gone astray. She tried to recall her exact movements that morning, but her memory offered her nothing more than the faint feeling of having been flustered by her mother. Still, she would not accuse Betsy. No, that wasn't in her nature. But she did need to find the letter. She headed downstairs. Betsy was in the hall polishing the banister, thoroughly, although it didn't strictly need it, when Jane approached. "Betsy," Jane said gently, "when you placed the correspondence on my desk, do you recall seeing a small folded letter? I cannot seem to find it." Betsy froze. Her hand mid-polish hovered an inch above the wood. I beg your pardon, miss." Jane smiled, careful to look reassuring rather than concerned. "I seem to have misplaced a letter. No doubt it's simply hidden beneath something, but I wondered if you remembered setting it down." "Oh, yes, miss," Betsy said faintly. "I put everything together on the desk. I was sure I did, quite sure." Jane nodded, her expression kind but thoughtful. "Then I shall look again. Do not trouble yourself." But Betsy did trouble herself. It was immediate and catastrophic. She spent the next half hour retracing her steps, trying to recall every movement, every breath she had taken while carrying those letters. She checked the stairs. She checked the hall table. She checked the small alcove she sometimes forgot she paused in. She even crouched to peer beneath the carved console table, in case the errant letter had slipped away in a moment of rebellion. Mrs. Hill found her on her knees. "What are you doing down there?" Hill demanded. "Have you dropped your senses somewhere?" "No, Mum," Betsy said earnestly. "Only a letter." Mrs. Hill sighed, though there was sympathy tucked behind it. "If it troubles you, sweep the corridor and see what turns up." Betsy swept. Nothing turned up. She ran into Thomas next, polishing the brass candelabras, or appearing to. Betsy suspected he was merely supervising them sternly. "Thomas," she whispered urgently, "if a letter slipped from my hand, where might it go?" "That depends," Thomas replied without looking away. "Was there a draft? Loose papers are very fond of drafts." "Oh no," Betsy said, distressed. "What if I have lost something important?" Thomas glanced at her then, assessing her worry. Most things lost are found in the least dignified places. Drawers, cushions, sleeves. "Sleeves!" exclaimed Betsy, checking her own. Nothing. Molly came passing by. Betsy checked her sleeves too, while Molly yelped and demanded explanations. The explanations only made Molly want to help more. By midday, Mrs. Dowling had become invested as well. "What kind of letter was it?" the cook demanded. "I don't know," Betsy admitted. "Miss Bennet didn't say." "Well," Mrs. Dowling huffed, "if it's one of those romantic letters, it's probably run off to hide from her mother. I would." Upstairs, Jane sat upon the edge of her bed thinking, not anxiously, she seldom worked herself into agitation, but methodically. Her mind retraced the morning, and then she paused, because something tugged faintly at her awareness. Reaching for a dress she had worn earlier, she examined its pocket. Her fingers brushed folded paper. She blinked. Oh! She pulled the letter free, the very one she had wondered about, perfectly intact, quietly accusing her of having absent-mindedly tucking it away before ever handing the others to Betsy. "Oh dear," Jane whispered. "Oh dear." Without hesitation she hurried downstairs. Betsy was hurrying down the hall, clutching a stack of linens to her chest, as though they might steady her nerves. Her face was pale, her steps uneven. "Betsy," Jane called gently from behind. Betsy spun so fast the linens nearly took flight. "Oh, Miss Jane, I knew it. I've lost it. I must have lost it. I don't know how. I never meant to. I checked twice. I really did, only perhaps not well enough. And I've been trying to remember every step I took, but I can't, and I'm so dreadfully sorry." "Betsy, I promise I'll start again. I'll look everywhere, even outside if I must, even though it couldn't possibly be outside. But if it is, I'll find it, miss. I truly will." "Betsy," she kept going, breathless. "I understand if you can't trust me with letters again, miss. I do. I wouldn't trust me either." "Betsy," Jane said, with just a hint of sternness that finally stopped Betsy. She stood frozen, eyes wide, throat tight. Jane lifted a small piece of folded paper. The letter, perfectly intact. "I found it," Jane said softly, "in the pockets of my other dress. I must have put it there and forgotten, and of course, you wouldn't have known to look there, would you?" Betsy's mouth fell open. In your pocket?" Jane nodded, her smile warm. "Yes, you did nothing wrong." All the tension drained from Betsy at once. She deflated like a punctured bellows. "Oh, miss, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." "There's no need to apologize," Jane said warmly. "You were blameless, entirely so." Hill, who had overheard, nodded firmly. "There, what did I say? Things turn up if you stop panicking long enough." "I'm grateful for your care, Betsy, truly," Jane said warmly. And just like that, the cloud lifted from her day, and from Betsy's, as she finally allowed herself to exhale properly for the first time since breakfast. Later, as she dusted the staircase again, Betsy felt her shoulders finally loosen. The dreadful business was behind her. Miss Bennet wasn't cross, no letters had truly vanished, and all was well with the world. She gave her own sleeve a discreet pat, just in case it was harbouring any secrets. One could never be too careful in a house where paper had a mind of its own.